I'm Victor, and you're in my apartment, and I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to introduce you to this amazing guy named Seamus Harte. Seamus is one of my best friends in the whole world, and he's also one of the most creative people I know. He is a creative director, a media maker, an educator, working at the Stanford Design School and on his own media company. But he didn't just land there. He had this crazy windy path, and we're going to dive into one piece of that today, right now. Let's get started.
I think in the summer of 2005, I had graduated from high school and went to a small private college for a year, then a community college for another year, then transferred to Michigan State University. So I was just clearly just
higher education buffet. Try it out.
Let me treating it with a tapas mindset, but not thinking about the bill.
Right.
And I had no idea what to do, but I knew I just had to get out of Michigan. Was working at the time at my dad's construction company.
Yeah.
And after just a bad day, I just kind of walked into the office and I was like, I quit. I'm moving to California. I literally Googled music production, which was what I was interested in. And California, and the first thing that showed up is what I applied to, which is just a terrible way to think about college planning.
Well, at this point, it's just the next plate that you're like, I'll take that one.
The getting there was the biggest creative risk, or I guess just life risk, because I didn't know a soul. I literally did the cliche, packed a suitcase and a guitar case, and just got incredibly drunk the night before.
Wow.
And listened to Phantom Planet's California, just
So you're 21, you've bounced around to a few different schools, you look for an opportunity to pursue some creative passions, you hop a flight after getting a little bit tipsy, or maybe more so, a lot of tipsy. How does it go? How does it land?
I get a job at a place called Hold Everything, which is kind of like the Container Store.
Okay.
I got hired by a woman in an elevator.
Wait, what?
So she lived in the apartment complex that I moved into, and she was like, oh, you just moved here? And I was like, yep. And we just kind of were chatting. And then they went out of business a few months later. One of my best friends, he asked me if I wanted to do a coat check shift. Are you familiar with the Folsom Street
No,
Fair?
Tell me about
it. It's this leather bondage street festival that happens in San Francisco. There's a huge nightclub party for it, right?
Sure.
So you have to go on and work coat check, and I had no idea what I was going into.
You're 22, you're from Michigan.
I made hundreds of dollars that night in cash.
And you're like, struck gold.
Yes!
I have found my calling.
Yeah, I started in the coat check scene. So the gentleman that worked there knew that I was also going to school for music production and sound, and so he was like, hey, knock yourself out, play around with all the stuff. And so I ended up starting to do all the setups. So fast forward, 15 years.
Right.
I have 2 kids. I live in Palo Alto. I never thought I'd even be living in the burbs, biking to work. I work at Stanford. None of that was even on my radar at all.
So this sort of windy career path, finding out how you can make money while going to school, landing at a nightclub, and then staying there for a while launches you into the rest of your career in a lot of ways. What are creative leaps and things you're considering doing next?
I think in a lot of ways, I've been leaping for 15 years. I was studying music, and when I realized, really, it's not about music, it's about video, and made the jump into video, and then made the jump into design, and then into education. Now I feel like I really love, the community and what I do. And in some ways, I'm now trying to figure out what are those daily practices, or those little those mini leaps that I can be doing for me, because so much of my work requires me to give to other people. whether it's designing curriculum or
Sure.
experiences.
You're producing, you're creating, you're making, you're
Yeah.
like you're just giving a lot of energy to these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then having 2 kids.
Oh my goodness,
on
right.
top of that.
You know, we've been talking about how leaps are, like, if you take it apart a little bit, really thinking about challenges you care to work on either in your life or your world, or people you want to work with, or things you like to make. I wonder, you know, if this is a season where the sort of people you're working with might be your family. Like, it's just like, or the challenge is, you know, being a good dad right now, or being really present as a husband. Are those kinds of the kinds of things that show up for you?
I like to think that I do that stuff already. Pandemic aside,
Sure.
I'm home a lot. I think for me, the leap is like getting back to the things that are just for me. When you're like so immersed into design, like who's the audience? You forget that you can just do things because you love the process or because that makes you feel good or whatever it is. So I think almost my leap is like, how do I from 4 a.m. to like 7 a.m., what are those like 15 and 20 minute chisels? Before I do anything work related, I'll do like 20 minutes of yoga. Then I do 20 minutes of practicing Korean.
Wow.
And then 20 minutes of playing guitar. And like, it doesn't have to be about becoming a musician for the world. It's like, I enjoy doing this stuff. I want to learn how to speak Korean because my wife's Korean and my kids are half Korean. And most of the things that I'm writing they are the audience. It's for them. If other people appreciate it and find value in it, great. And if not, I'm not worried about figuring out how to design it for that audience.
I love that. I think there's sometimes too much of an emphasis or a focus as we produce things to focus on the audience or the market or who's going to like it or whatnot, and to do things that just give you the energy and the life so that when you are doing the things that are very strictly for other people, you have that sort of oomph that comes by that energy that comes by doing these kinds of projects.
One of the owners of the nightclub that I worked in, he was talking about how you never get good at what you don't want to do. If you are identified by management or whoever it is, like you then kind of get pulled into that thing, and then you know, if you're not really savvy about it, you start to build a life around that income or those expectations or whatever it is. And I'm not saying you have to leave. I'm not saying like move around a lot.
Just pay attention to those inklings.
Sir Ken Robinson talks about the element, like what you can, like there's a bunch of different frameworks out there where people talk about like what you're good at and like what you're passionate about and like what the world needs, right? Like if what you're good at and what the world needs is connected, but the passion thing isn't, then you need to be like really aware of that. So I always try to do things that only I can do. Also allowing yourself a decade to figure out what those uniquely positioned things are. One of the things that even prompted me to start writing these stories about my education is office hours at Stanford, where you have like a 19-year-old saying, oh, you have an interesting job or career or whatever it is. Can you tell me what class I should take? Right? And you're like, yeah, it's called your 20s. You should just take your 20s and do a bunch of crazy shit with intention to figure out what you actually want to be doing and what would uniquely be what you would be uniquely positioned for. So hold on 1 second. Hello. Oh, why? Thank you. Oh, I appreciate this. Yeah, I'm in a meeting right now.
You just get a food delivery?
I just got some snacks.
Oh my gosh, snack break. Time out. Okay, man. Hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Anytime. You want a cracker?
Yeah, I would love one. And some water, maybe. Have a good rest of the day, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.